How should you talk to your kids about your wealth? Hi, I'm attorney Paul DeLaurie, and I teach families and business owners how to protect their assets and empower their kids to be responsible stewards of their wealth. So, how do you tell your kids about how much money you have? Listen, this is important because, like I've said in other videos, lack of communication between generations or within the family is one of the leading reasons that wealth is lost in the transfer to the next generation. Actually, let me restate that. It's not lost in the transfer. A lot of people focus on that and want to avoid probate and minimize taxes, which is fine, but that's not where most of the money gets lost. Most of the money gets lost then when the next generation has the money. So, and how do you do that? Well, if you're going to do one thing, it's to take what I'm talking about in this video seriously, because, well, wealth ends up getting squandered by the next generation because they don't know what it means. It has to do with meaning and not knowing, because they don't know what it means. They don't have a sense of wanting to preserve it. So how do you talk to your kids in general about money? This is actually relevant. So just know that most of the information on the news and in the movies is, well, we can argue about this because it actually ends up being political, and I'm not sure there's not a really clear way to talk about this without getting into politics. But let me say this, that just from a pure money management, wealth building standpoint, most of the information in the Hollywood movies and on the mass media when it comes to money is not good. It's not healthy. So we'll just leave it at that. And so you do have to be deliberate what you teach your kids and how you teach them. Now, I know that a lot of my clients have a concern about, well, if they talk to their kids about how much money they have, then the kids will start behaving differently and not treating them the same way. Maybe they'll start to be a competition over who can treat mom and dad better, and trying to butter you up so that they can ask for an early handout or an early inheritance or a loan, or basically begging for money. Is it going to get down to that? Or sometimes, actually, I've seen this, and it's ugly, where the kids turn against each other, and they try to turn you against another child. And well, you may not even know it, because in your mind you think it's perfectly fine. You hear all these stories about how your one child has problems with money and is irresponsible and must be on drugs or is an alcoholic or something like that, and the stories are all coming from one child, so you're not getting it both ways, but it sure seems plausible, and it's kind of a con job, actually. I've seen this just over and over. So that, anyway, that's an issue about how you talk to your kids. So let's get into some details. I've talked about this in other videos too, where your money mindset, for lack of a better word, is like a thermostat. Like, people are used to having a certain amount of money. Keith Cunningham, I hope he is okay with me telling this story because he tells it publicly. But he's a business coach, and he tells the story about how he built up his wealth to $100 million. And then in the recession in the 2007, 2008, he lost all of it. And I'm not sure if he was personally in bankruptcy. Anyway, he lost it, and was well into the negative. And then what he did is he built it up again. So, like, how in the world can you do that? Well, it's because people have subconsciously, they have this thermostat. And so one of the things that you're doing is when you're communicating about your wealth to your kids, you don't want to say, listen, you're really wealthy. We have a lot of money. Our family is so rich. Because, when they're in school, grade school or whatnot, they're going to be bragging about that to all of their friends, and, oh, my family has more money than yours and something. Well, that's not a good thing to be teaching kids, right? However, they can have a respectful relationship with other people, and also learn to have it's a standard. Okay, it's not a goal. Goals and standards are totally different. It's a standard of having a certain amount of money. And then subconsciously, even if you lose all your money, as they get older, that standard is still there, and they'll figure that out. That's why you hear stories about super wealthy people over the years who have their fathers or their parents, I'll say, gave them money, and like some large amount. Anyway, you can. I know there's a lot of people who that happened to, and the reason was it wasn't to give them a handout or give them a silver spoon, as is usually reported in the news and whatnot. The reason is to get them used to holding, managing, and not losing a large amount of money. And in the course of that, maybe they make mistakes, maybe they do it well. Whatever happens, they're going to learn from that process, and they're going to learn how to hold a large amount of money. And this is, you have to understand. Let me say one last thing. The idea of education in this country is kind of messed up in a lot of ways, but let me tell you specifically what I'm talking about here. The idea is that you tell kids facts, they memorize those facts, and they repeat them back, and if they do it well, then they've learned something. Well, that's BS. You don't learn by memorizing facts. You learn by doing something. And the way to teach your kids how to ultimately inherit your money, or ultimately be successful on their own, which you probably want both of those, they have to learn how to hold money. And as many stories as you tell or books you give them to read, they're never going to learn how to hold money and manage money unless they actually hold money and manage money. So, depending on how much money you have, maybe it's $100 and you give them that, and their task is to invest it and whatnot, and not spend it on a new cell phone cover or something. So that would be a way of actually teaching them. So thanks for listening, and if you like this video, please click the like button.